our speaker, Ruta Kruliauskaite. Is there anybody who knows Ruta Kruliauskaite? Raise your hands. Okay, good. So Ruta, you have a big support in the hall from the audience. Well, now Ruta is acting as a executive producer of the biggest leadership summit in Central Europe, Forum 1. But also Ruta has a big experience in TEDx events. She was organized or involved in organizing of TEDx for kids, and also TEDx Vilnius, which nowadays is the biggest TEDx event in the Baltic region. So before I will give a floor for Ruta, I would like to invite you to watch a short movie.
From Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theaters, every day people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organized by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TEDs. But we hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
So, ladies and gentlemen, applauses for Ruta.
Hi. Is my mic working? Yeah. So, how many of you have heard of TEDx or TED before? Can you raise your hand? That's good. How many of you have attended a TEDx event before? Okay, 30%. So the ones that attended the TEDx event before, you should have seen this video, because this is the video that is played at the beginning of every single TEDx event on this planet. And in fact, if it was a TEDx event, I would be giving an 80-minute speech right now. So 40 minutes might seem a little long, especially for me. And I actually now know how all my speakers feel when I put stress on them before coming on stage. So please forgive me if I make some mistakes. And so today I'm going to give a bit of behind the scenes of how TEDx is curating the speakers. And it's going to be connected both how TED does it and TEDx does it. And so both how to create the speakers and how to create the audience and why it's all important. But before that, let me give you a bit of preview of what it is all is for those who doesn't know about TED and TEDx. So TED is, as Chris said in the video, it's a small, not so small now. It's a nonprofit devoted to ideas for spreading. It started back in 1984 as a small invite-only dinner party focusing on only 3 subjects: technology, entertainment, and design. And last year it celebrated its 30th anniversary. In 2006, TED launched a TED.com website where they put all previous and future and all the TED Talks online for the audience to see for free. And since 2006, when they did that, they already added 1,800 talks to the website. All of those talks have been viewed more than 2 billion times and translated into more than 100 languages. And no one expected it will become so huge. And before launching the website in 2006, TED's curator, Chris Anderson, and TED's executive media director, June Cohen, they went to BBC with the proposal. They wanted to give them all the TED videos from the past conferences and asking them to start a TV show showing those videos. And BBC turned them down, saying that those videos, they won't generate mass audience attention and it won't be successful. So, well, BBC is laughing now, I think. And every year, TED organizes 5 conferences. So TED is the main one. It happens in February or in March. And TED Global, which is the sister conference for TED, and happens in a different city and different country every few years. It used to be organized in Scotland. Now they moved to Brazil, and we still don't know where it's going to be the next location. TED Active, which is the simulcast event for TED and happens at the same time. TED Women, which is focusing on women issues and women leadership and all the topics that are connected with women. And TED Youth, focusing on the younger generation. TED also supports and initiates a lot of different projects, such as TED Prize, TED Fellows Open Translation Project, which is also a community of volunteers subtitling TED Talks into many different languages. TED Ed, focusing on education, and TEDx, which I'm representing right now. And since the beginning, since 1984, when TED was only a conference, it's not just a conference right now, it's a global community of so many different people who are really crazy enough to believe that ideas can change the world and who live with that ideas worth spreading mission. And TEDx is the part of it. And so it started in 2009 as a program of independently organized TED events. TEDx is now a global community of volunteers, of passionate people who organize TED-like events in the local communities. Those events are happening all over the world. There are almost 1,400 events planned for the next year, and they happen from the locations such as slums in India to the best locations, best venues in the world, like Opera House in Sydney, and strange locations as Mount Everest, or even in prisons. And yeah, here's some numbers. So in total, there have been almost 12,000 TEDx events organized since 2009, with 2,500 events organized last year alone. 2,500 cities hosted TEDx event in 166 countries. There have been 15,000 talks posted on the official TEDx Talks YouTube channel last year, comparing to the total number of 52,000 talks, and all of them have been viewed almost 500 million times, and 308 of them were posted to TED.com website, which makes 17% of the entire TED Talks content. Last year was very special for the program in many ways. We had our 5-year anniversary. The number of 10,000 events were organized. We reached 10,000 number events organized all over the world. 50,000 talk went online. The first event in Cuba was organized, and the first 10,000 attendee event was organized. And in this picture, you can see the picture of the audience in TEDx Rio del Plata in Argentina, which hosted that 10,000 attendee event. I am responsible for a few of those events. This is the entire list. So since 2011, when I got involved in the program, I've been part or attended 26 TEDx events, varying from very small simulcast events to TED conferences, and this year alone I still have 12 conferences coming up. TEDx Vilnius is of course my favorite, and I think that's why I love TEDx program so much, because there's a Vilnius at the end. because we organize it for our local community. And we've been part of the program since 2010, when the first TEDx Vilnius event was organized. And in just 2 months, in April, we will host our 5th annual conference, and we will invite 800 people to attend. We are the team of 20 volunteers. We say that we are full-time volunteers who just happen to have full-time job on the side. We spend all of our free time for this initiative. We manage everything, and everything is on the voluntarily basis. And yeah, so we are part of this global community. There are being TEDx summits organized for TEDx organizers. There are hundreds of TEDx organizers coming to TED conferences. We have workshops, we have annual meetings, we have some of our best friends are also TEDx organizers. And being part of such global community leads us to some collective wisdom how to organize those events successfully. And here we come to curating speakers. In the picture is Peter. He spoke at TEDx Vilnius event last year. And here I want to talk about curating the speakers. Why curating the speakers is important and how it's different from managing the speaker, because managing the speaker and curating the speaker, they're completely two different things. And to create the TEDx event and to create the speaker is a lot different from organizing a regular conference when the speaker just comes, speaks, and leaves. It's much more complex. It consumes much more of your time, and it requires some knowledge. And there's some knowledge that TED gives us, and there's some tips that every TEDx event uses specifically to the theme. And what TED gives us is 10 TED commandments. It's a Bible for every TEDx organizer who prepares the speakers. It's what every speaker relies on and knows by heart when preparing a TED Talk. And I'll just quickly go through each of the points. So I'm not going to read this Shakespeare English, so I'm just going to explain a bit about each of the points. So the first one is, don't give your talk as usual. There are a lot of speakers that they know one topic by heart, and they go to the conferences and speak all over and over about the same topic. And most of the speakers that give a TEDx talk, they are not professional speakers. They may be some scientists that don't even have public speaking skills, and this TEDx talk might be the only chance for them to get on stage. So when you prepare a TEDx talk or TED talk, you should include the newest information in your talk, something that you has never shared before, and be new. Dream big. Share something that you never shared before, and experiment with your talk. Show the audience the real you. Share your passions and dreams and own the audience. Tell the story. Make the story simple. Don't try to dazzle too much information into the talk. And we always say that it's better to focus on one idea in the talk, and rather go deep than broad. And because if you go broad, then it's going to be just artificial and no story in the talk. Feel free to comment on other speakers, either endorse them or criticize them. It builds the conversational mood, and it also emphasizes what great work other people are doing, and it creates a better atmosphere for the audience. Don't show your ego, don't show how wonderful you are, be vulnerable, and speak of your failures as well as successes. No selling from stage. This is one of the most important TED rules that every TED staff member and every TEDx organizer is repeating to the speaker over and over again. You cannot sell your company, you cannot talk about your products, you cannot talk about anything that you do, your writings, and you cannot pitch for funding. And the audience is not a stupid audience, and they sense immediately if you're trying to pitch them something. Connect with people's emotions and make them laugh. And if people start laughing, you take a moment and make a pause and let them laugh and start all over again, or continue when you see that there is a mood for continuing. Don't read the speech. The notes are always welcome. And I remember one of the first TEDx events that we organized, and there were a few speakers that they didn't imagine how to learn every word for 18-minute talk. And one of our coaches, they said, well, you don't have to learn it by heart. You just read it. You don't have to learn every word. You just read it and repeat it as many times as it's become natural. And this is why there's these monitors, so you don't have to look back to the screen, especially when you are filming the talk, and the final product is the video, and it's always better when the speaker looks forward to the audience. And the most important is don't go over time. It is very disrespectful for the next speaker that is coming after you. And there have been times when Chris Anderson had to step on stage and pull the speaker away without even letting him finish his talk because he was going over time. So this is something that TED is giving us. This is something that every TEDx organizer is using, in addition to other specific methods for every different TED event. So a few months ago, TEDx team in New York, in the TED headquarters, they did a research for TEDx Innovation blog. And they tried to put the different strategies, what strategies different TEDx organizers are using for searching and preparing the speakers. So here are some tips from that research, and together the entire process that we use here at TEDx Vilnius when we work with the speakers. So the first one is use your theme as a guide. TEDx and TED events, they cannot be on one specific topic. They cannot be only about medicine. They cannot be only about technology or education. They have to be as broad, enough broad to fit the diverse audience. For example, last year at TEDx Vilnius, we had the theme "The Future is Ours," which was broad enough to fit all of the 800 people that are coming to our event. Or Pale Blue Dot, as we will have this April. Once we have the concept, we break it down. We break it down to 4 or 5 subtopics that fit to the main theme and are interesting both to us as local organizers and to our local community. Last year, The Future is Ours was broken down into 4 subtopics of the future of education, the future of cities, the future of society, and the future of technology. And once we have those subtopics, we think of what different questions could fit into each of that subtopic. What questions should we ask about the future of education? What questions should we ask about the future of the city? And once we have all those questions, we start looking for the speaker leads. So for every event, we have 4 or 5 sessions. In every session, there are 4 or 5 speakers plus a performance, which means that there are 20 to 25 speakers total. To have the final number of 20, 25 speakers, we have to have more than 100 speaker leads, which we narrow down as long as we have the final list. At TEDx Vilnius, we look both for local and international speakers. We look for international speakers that are maybe famous abroad, but they are unknown in our local community. Or if they are known in the local community, we want to bring them to meet those local people and to maybe start some projects together. And we also look for local voices who are still unheard, but they are doing some amazing work, and their ideas should be brought to the world. To have that list of 100 speaker leads and every year different speakers, we have to ask help from many different organizations and many different people. We have a curatorial team at TEDx Vilnius. Every team member suggests their favorite speakers, the favorite people that they think should be brought to the stage. We asked different organizations, different nonprofits, different universities to suggest their leads. We asked the community, as Rob said in his presentation yesterday, that Generation Y likes to be engaged. So most of the audience that comes to our events, they are 30, 35 years old, and we always ask for their feedback. We send out forms, we send out newsletters where they suggest the speakers, they say why they think the speaker should come on stage and what he or she could speak about. Of course, you read a lot of magazines, go to the events, and keep your radar open all the time, because you never know where you can find the potential speaker that can deliver a TEDx talk. This is very important to mention. You have to plan very far ahead. We usually come up with the concept 1 year before the event. And then you just constantly look for the speakers, because the speaker curation and the scouting for speakers is a very slow process where you don't see the results right away. So you have to prepare to be patient until you have the final lineup. And when you have the final lineup, you have to stick with it. This is when the most fun happens. This is when the hardest time starts as well, with the most work and all the preparation. But it's really worth it, and it pays off at the event. So once we have the final lineup, the preparation process starts. Every speaker has to send in his talk proposal. We have few brief meetings and brief calls before actually finally confirming the speaker. But when we do, they have to send in the talk proposals, which doesn't have to be an outline, it has to be the final talk. And when they do that, we go back and forth with the feedback until we more or less have the final draft of the talk, and we can continue working. When all the speakers have final draft talks, we start doing meetings and hangouts. We do one general hangout for all the speakers. This is where we explain the concept of the event. This is where we explain the final picture of the program. This is where we introduce each of the speakers to one another. This is also where our speaker coach joins us. This is usually something from the global TEDx community, which has experience to working with speakers. And after the joint Google Hangout, we do some one-on-one work and one-on-one meetings with the coach and with TEDx Vilnius curator of any TEDx event curator. And it usually takes 1 to 2 months to work on this process. When we have the final talks, there's one day before the event, there's dress rehearsals. It happens at the venue where everything is already set up. The stage is set up, all the technical, like AV, sound, light, everything is already prepared. The speaker has his final presentation. He or she just speaks and has to go through entire talk. And this is where, like before, a lot of different people can comment on the talks. Other speakers can comment on the speaker, give them feedback about the body posture, about some lines in the talk. This is the day when only events curator and speaker coach can make a final edit. And it's usually not about the content, it's just maybe you stay wrong on the red carpet, or maybe you shouldn't move back and forth. These kind of comments. And then the big day. This is when what everybody is most afraid of. This is when all the work and all the stress pays off. There's a team working with the speakers before the event. There's, again, an entire different team working with the speakers during the event. We always say, and it's like my key rule to let every speaker feel as a rock star during the event. Even if he's an unknown scientist or, I don't know, shy scientist, he has to feel like a rock star at the event. Everybody has to be taking care of the speaker. All the speakers must know each other. There are no VIP zones. Every speaker is approachable by all the attendees. And we always keep all the speakers together because you never know what might happen. A lot of projects, a lot of friendship might happen after that TEDx talk. So curating the speakers it's very time-consuming thing, especially when you do it on your free time. But it's really rewarding, not only for the speakers, but for the organizers, because it's lasting friendships, it's lasting experiences, it's lasting projects, and it's building of the community. And it's integrating local, Vilnius, or any other city community to the global TED and TEDx community. But curating speakers is not all that makes the TEDx event or any other event successful. We always say that making a great program and creating the great speaker lineup is only 50% of that success. The other half of the success belongs to the audience. It belongs to every single person that comes to the event. It's not enough just to register the event and send them a newsletter that see you in 2 months. The event starts at 9 a.m. and will start at 7 p.m. It's actually curating and knowing every single attendee by heart who is coming, and knowing why that person is coming to the event, and letting that person be responsible for the experience that he or she will have at the event. So like TED events, TEDx Vilnius events, we review every person coming to the conference. Just last Monday, we started the registration, opened the registration for the conference in April. Now all the people have 1 month to register and fill in the application saying why they want to come and why they should be selected and in what ways they can contribute to the TEDx and to local Vilnius community. After that 1 month, we will carefully review each of the applications. We will read every application, every motivation why a person has to come. And then we will select 550 people who will be led to purchase the ticket. We have a range of 5 different pledges that person can choose one from those 5 and pay the price that they think is worth paying for the event. We do it because everything is done on the voluntary basis, and we want to include the local community on as deep as they think they want to be included, and they choose the price that they want to pay. So these are a few things that we look for the audience. We look for as diverse audience as possible. We look at every attendee's profile, and we look that there wouldn't be too many teachers, there wouldn't be too many lawyers. We want to have a very diverse audience. We look for the audience that reflect the speaker's professional background. So every year there are 20, 25 different speakers with different professional backgrounds. It means that the audience every year will reflect those different speakers, and it will be different every year. And no big groups. So if there's a person registering and he doesn't know anyone who else is coming to the event, this is big bonus for that person, because we want a lot of strange people coming to the event who don't know other people, but they meet them and they connect at the event. So when we have the final list of attendees, it usually happens 1.5 months before the event. There are a lot of tricks that we do with attendees, and when we start preparing them for the event. We have a special newsletter, countdown newsletter campaigns, when we send different newsletter every week, letting people know the new information and what they can expect at the event. We have special app where people can browse other attendees, they can schedule meetings in advance, and they can browse the speakers, and they can connect by sending messages to one another. We have networking events before the conference where attendees and already the speakers that arrive, they meet before the event and they connect and they know each other. There are also a lot of tricks that you can do during the event. And a lot of them are connected with food. So I'm going to tell you just a few of them. Like last year, we did a lunch where every attendee had a lunch tag, and they had to find 3 other people and collect those 4 lunch tags. And once they have 4 tags, they get a picnic basket that they have to share with those people. And at first, we worked with one organizing partner that helped us organize the catering, and that person was very skeptical that and we were a bit scared because Lithuanians, they are shy, they don't connect instantly. But once we gave those baskets, we turned the entire venue into schoolyard where top executives and 65-year-old professors, they were as kids staying on the floor and eating together and chatting. And in this picture, we see lunch picture preparation for lunch at TEDx Youth at Homer in Alaska, where all the attendees had to sit by a few long tables and eat as a family. Or a family-style lunch at TEDx Sydney. Or again, TEDx Sydney, where they served only local farmers' grown food and let all the attendees just take food and connect with each other. So here are just a few tips, and I haven't had the conventional, traditional event management education. I work on the big events right now, and my school was a TEDx. I've organized TEDx events since 2011, and there have been a lot of failures. There have been a lot of successes, and I think it's the best school that I could ever ask for. And I'm really happy that there are more and more people joining TEDx program, and I'm really happy that there are a lot of conference organizers that take this knowledge and apply it to their traditional events that they organize. And thank you.
Thank you, Ruta. Well, now it's time for questions. Are there any? It was so clear. Okay.
The theme is pale blue dot. I date. So it's on 11th of April. It's going to be Saturday, and we are moving to the new venue, so we are going to host it at the National Drama Theatre. Yeah.
I would like to ask if there is any subject which you forbid for people to talk about it. Is there any sensible subject which you don't like to be discussed?
Yeah, so every TEDx organizer, so TED gives a license for every event, so you cannot organize an event without a license. And when you get the license, you get a set of rules that you have to read and you have to follow when organizing the event. And so pretty much everything is allowed except of politics, except of religion, and except of bad science, which is now, there were some topics and articles going on the past few years when there are some pseudoscientists coming on stage and trying to sell their theories, and they are not scientifically proved yet. So yeah, these are some topics that you have to be really careful, and this is why the curating is very important, when you have to know every word that speaker is going to say. Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, Ruta. I wanted to ask a question. Do you have a system how you measure the success of every event you have? How do you know if the event was successful or not?
So we have TEDx team in New York. They ask after every TEDx event, we have to send a special feedback form to the attendees. It used to be a long form, very general for every attendee. Now we change the system and we send only one question after the event. We send a question asking from 1 to 10, how many points would you recommend this event to your friend or your colleague? And then there's an open field for people to say why they gave like 6 or 8 or 10. And we, of course, like after every TEDx event and after every event, we have the feedback meetings with the team where we kind of measure ourselves and see, and of course, we see the numbers that attendees give us.
Any other questions?
I guess I just didn't understand. If person from the street, like simple one, can come to this event, or he has to register first and then he's like considered if he can participate.
Yeah,
or
so
not?
it's open for everybody, but we have people have to register. We have the registration form, which is open for everybody. And now the registration will be open until the beginning of March, and people has to apply. There are some simple questions asking what the person does, why he or she wants to come, and then we review all the applications, because usually we get overbooked. Like, we can sell only 550 tickets, but there are 1,000 people who want to come. That's why we review all the applications if really everybody wants to come, and then people can come to the event.
Any more questions? Thank you, Ruta, very much. I should say that you are champion in terms of number of questions.